Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Alex Paul from InvestorStream, and I'll be your host today. This morning, AnteoTech Managing Director David Radford will be joining me for a Q&A session to discuss the company's recent progress following the release of the annual report, which can be downloaded via the handouts pane in the GoToWebinar control panel. It was obviously released this morning, so you can access that via the ASX as well. I'd also like to thank shareholders for sending through questions. As we have received a number of questions, a detailed Q&A document will also be released addressing these onto the website shortly. And finally, a copy of the webinar will also be available on AnteoTech's website and social media platforms later today. But I'd like to welcome David. David, it's great to chat again and good to see you.
Alex, thanks very much for the opportunity and good to see you too.
Now, David, you've just released your results for FY 2023. Among some of the highlights, what stands out to you?
Alex, thanks, and thanks again. Look, FY23, I joined in October 2022, and part of my due diligence, I really focused on three areas: people, technology, and partnerships. And you know, as the shareholders would have seen over the past 12 months, 12 months now, we've really made some changes at the leadership level to have a commercially focused leadership team, and we've spent the time building a platform for growth. So at the people level, we are now set and we're well positioned for growth. Technologically, when I did my due diligence, I was excited about the opportunities that whether it was AnteoX, high silicon anode, or AnteoBind had. I think it's fair to say that all of the products this year have really outperformed expectations. The work we've been doing with Trinseo and Wion under our memorandum of understanding, our charge densities have increased, our cycle times have increased beyond the hurdles we set. We've been working with some major marquee brand electric vehicle manufacturers. We've been able to demonstrate a 20% increase in density in their high performance anodes, and a 5-fold reduction in very costly input materials. At the AnteoBind level, the team in life sciences have been working with a major life sciences provider, and they've been able to develop a technology that gives a 5 to 10% reduction in actual material costs of these very much commoditized tests. So technologically, the team has really done a great job in developing some solutions. In terms of partnerships, I started off with 26 collaborators. I made it very clear early on that I personally disliked the expression collaborator, wanted to move to partnerships. Trinseo and Wion are progressing very well, and we now have proposals to move to a commercial agreement sitting with them. And Manuel and myself are going to Europe in October with a view to advancing them. We have one of the very major electric vehicle manufacturers. We have a proposal in front of them for the initial validation and purchase of AnteoX when used in their high performance anodes. So we've made some really big advances in moving towards commercialization. We also have a couple of joint development agreements that we are working on in partnership with a couple of marquee brand electric vehicle companies and also some leading battery companies. So overall, if I look at the year, we've come an awful long way, and the team has really matured commercially. And look, I think we have some very exciting times ahead of us, both technologically and from a partnership perspective. So it's been a big year.
Thanks, David. Now, you've recently completed a capital raising and you launched an SPP. Firstly, who are the key supporters of this raising, and how have you structured your balance sheet to support what you need?
Look, we were very lucky with our capital raise. We engaged the services of Canaccord as lead manager. Canaccord, as many of the shareholders will know, is an internationally focused broking and investment bank. They have a strong position internationally and in the battery sector. And in parallel with that, we had the team from Hawkesbury Partners in Sydney assisting us at the corporate level. We raised $4 million. We wanted to raise a small amount to enable us to deliver on some of these commercialization targets that we have without over diluting the existing shareholders. So we've achieved that. We've launched the SPP with a closing date of the 6th of September. And the objective there is to give our shareholders an opportunity to share in the future growth of the business. So in terms of the capital raise and the SPP, that basically gives us the money to move forward comfortably and as we look to deliver some of these milestones. In parallel with that, we're anticipating up to $3.5 million of R&D tax credits. And we've also, as part of the work this year, we've been focused on applying for governmental and other non-dilutionary grants. And we have a couple of those on foot that we anticipate will close, if not late 2023, early 2024. And there's been a lot of work gone into those, really focused around the clean energy technology sector. So we've got some great proposals under consideration.
Thanks, David. Now, there has been some confusion around the Ferro action against the company. What can you tell us?
Look, the Ferro action, there's not a lot I can say given it is under a legal process. However, there are a couple of points that I think are very important. Firstly, it provides a very good independent validation of the technology and the future value of what we're doing in the high silicon anodes. And I think that's a great independent validation for the company that we're on the right track. Secondly, it is purely for the silicon anode. So our lead products of AnteoX and AnteoBind are not affected by this action, which is very important. So they are our lead products, first to market, and that is obviously ongoing. Thirdly, the company very aggressively refutes the allegations and claims. We think that they are baseless. And to put it in context, the company spends $400,000 a year approximately on protecting its IP. And given the focus that we have on building our core asset, which is IP at this stage, we are going to vigorously defend these claims, which again we feel are without substance. So that's where we're at, and we believe that things will just now follow a legal process.
So, David, you've talked about setting the foundations for a real run at it next year. So, in your view, what are the main indicators of success for the business in 2024?
Alex, as I said earlier, we have the platform for growth. We have the right people doing the right things, focused on commercial outcomes. What I would be saying to the shareholders is financial year 2024, you should be looking for commercial outcomes. As I mentioned earlier, we have the Trinseo and Wion memorandums of understanding. Again, Manuel and myself will be heading to Europe to advance those conversations. We've had a couple of the major marquee brand electric vehicle manufacturers working with us, both on high silicon anode and AnteoX. So there will be some significant progress there, whether it be on the AnteoX side of things, or potentially, we're also in discussions around paid joint development agreements. They are very much at an early stage, but the conversation is moving to how we can assist them more broadly, other than just AnteoX. We also have the manufacturing plant that is in Brisbane, 8 Mile Plains. We anticipate that will be up and producing commercial product early in 2024. Commissioning end of 2023 with commercial product in 2024. We also are looking at, as I mentioned earlier, non-dilutive grants. So we anticipate that some of those should be coming to fruition in the next couple of months. And not forgetting the life sciences side of things, the life sciences team are doing a wonderful job as they look at working with a major provider of life sciences technologies, where they've been able to demonstrate a 5 to 10% reduction in manufacturing costs. That team has a conversation with a major partner of ours in early September with a view to progressing to a commercial agreement. So as I look at this year ahead, we are working with internationally recognized names. We are looking at commercial agreements. And I think the key message I'd like to leave the shareholders is we are no longer the Aussie minnow looking to knock on doors. We are being approached by marquee brands, and we are dealing with them as equivalents. And that has been a huge change over the last 12 months. And to see the way that we are now recognized for the value that we can add to these companies is very exciting. And it's now at a stage that we need to be monetizing that. So those are the indicators that I would see in financial year 2024.
You've just talked about the main indicators for success right there, but in terms of putting those into action, what are the main issues or potential action items that keep you awake at night?
Yeah, look, the couple of things. So the first one is our speed to market. And very early on, I think probably in my first webinar, I spoke that we have to be very speedy to market. What we are seeing in the battery market and the clean energy side of things is that technologies are moving very quickly. The positive thing is that we are matching and leading that. And if I use an analogy, I see this the development of the clean energy technology and battery sector as being akin to a marathon. We are very much in that initial breakaway pack that is leading the marathon race. I don't know whether we're in first place. I don't know whether we're in 10, but we are certainly lined up for a podium finish. Some of the actions that we've been taking to make sure that we are recognized by these international companies is we've been spending more time in Europe, whether that's one-on-one meetings with the EV manufacturers, one-on-one meetings with international battery companies. We were at the battery show in June. Manuel and I have a very detailed roadshow coming up in October, where we are looking to progress these commercial conversations. So I think in terms of speed to market, we are now well positioned to take advantage of what is going on with the technological support. The other side of things that keep me awake at night are obviously we're in a global market for human capital. We've been very lucky. We've recently recruited 2 very high caliber PhDs to lead a couple of other initiatives that we're working on internally. And as the shareholders will have noticed, we've also brought on board a very high caliber CFO, which again is validation that the company has the technologies and the positioning to attract the right people. Obviously, the other one for a company such as ours is ongoing access to capital. We've completed the small capital raise. We have the SPP, and we're looking at the R&D tax credit. So, we want to keep building. All monies that we are raising is going into commercialization and growth initiatives, and we will continue to feed that as we move forward. So those would be the key things that keep me awake at night.
Thanks, David. And in closing, where do you see AnteoTech today, and how is it positioned in your view?
As I mentioned, and I used the analogy, we were the Aussie minnow. People really didn't know what we were and what we stood for. I believe that has now changed considerably, and we are getting inquiries from major multinationals that are understanding the value of products such as AnteoX, our high silicon anodes, and AnteoBind. We are working on an even footing with these major companies, and it's an incredibly exciting time for the business. We're seeing major global car companies moving away from petrol and diesel and into electric vehicles, and that is where their research is going. So they're making that transition, and we are positioned to be part of that. We are on the cusp of some major agreements being signed, so whether that's with Trinseo, whether that's Wion, whether that's with some of the EV companies, we are very well positioned across the clean energy technologies business. And as I say again, Manuel and I will be visiting Europe in October to progress these conversations. The life sciences team have done some outstanding work in demonstrating significant reduction in input costs for diagnostic tests, which again, in a maturing market is invaluable. So as a company, we are well positioned. We have great relationships that are continuing to develop through one-on-one visits. We have regular interactions, whether that be a weekly technological update. And I believe that as a company, we are now taken very seriously by these international players. So it's taken us a year to get there. We are now there. And as I say, 2024 is the year for us to deliver. I believe more so than 12 months ago, we are ready to deliver on commitments. So I think we're very well positioned.
Thanks, David. Any final comments you want to leave with us today?
Yes, look, I'd like to thank the shareholders that have submitted their questions. If I haven't addressed them in this webinar, they will be addressed on the web. So please, again, please continue to submit questions. There will be responses to you. And again, for those shareholders wishing to support us in our next stage of growth, I would encourage you to take a look at the SPP documents. And again, we are committed to driving the business forward, and we're very excited about the opportunities ahead.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you all for joining myself and David. And I'd also like to note the outstanding turnout for today's webinar, which is really appreciated by myself and obviously the AnteoTech team. I also like to thank David for taking the time to answer some questions. As I mentioned before, a recording of the webinar and a Q&A document will be on AnteoTech's website later today. That wraps it up for us here. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you.